Well, hello, everybody. This is a brand new canto. We're on Canto 8 right now, and we're in chapter 2. This would be the story of the Elephant King, Gajendra, and his particular crises. And it's a wonderful story in 3 chapters. We're going to try to do 2 of those chapters tonight, if at all possible. And we'd like to enlist anyone who wants to read with us, please do. Just be ready to follow along and read along, if you will. Okay? So thank you again for coming. We're going to start with pranams. Chant with me if you'd like. Nama Om Vishnu Padaya Krishna Prasthaya Buddhale Srimate Bhaktivedanta Swaminiti Namane Namaste Saraswati Devim Gauravani Pracharine Nirvishesha Sunyavari Paschat Yadeshatarane Jai Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Giridhara Shivasri Gaura Bhakti Vrinda Hare Krishna Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama Hare Rama 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 Hare Hare Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Okay, and I'll start as usual. There's 33 text or shlokas in each chapter, so we have 66 shlokas. Not a lot of commentary on this tonight. Only if you have questions will we do a lot of commentary because it's so self-explanatory. I mean, it's hard to add anything to the second chapter, which are the prayers of Gajendra, and you'll love this. So get ready to read, all right? I'll start out as usual. Text 1. Sukadeva Goswami said, "My dear king, there's a very large mountain called Tirukta. It is 10,000 yojanas, 80,000 miles high. Being surrounded by the ocean of milk, it is very beautifully situated. The length and breadth of the mountain are the same measurement, 80,000 miles. Its 3 principal peaks, which are made of iron, silver, and gold, beautify all directions and the sky. The mountain also has other peaks, which are full of jewels and minerals and are decorated with nice trees, creepers, and shrubs. The sounds of the waterfalls on the mountains create a pleasing vibration. In this way, the mountain stands, increasing the beauty of all directions. The ground at the foot of the mountain is always washed by the waves of milk that produce emeralds all around and in the 8 directions, north, south, east, west, and the directions midway between them. The inhabitants of the higher planets, the Siddhas, Charanas, Gandharvas, Vidyaharas, serpents, Kinnaras, and Apsaras, go to that mountain to sport. Thus, all the caves of the mountain are full of the denizens of the heavenly planets. Because of the resounding vibrations of the denizens of heaven singing in the caves, the lions there, being very proud of their strength, roar with unbearable envy, thinking that another lion is roaring in that way. The valleys beneath Tirukta mountain are beautifully decorated by many varieties of jungle animals. And in the trees, which are maintained in gardens by the demigods, varieties of birds chirp with sweet voices. Tirukta mountain has many lakes and rivers, with beaches covered by small gems resembling grains of sand. The water is as clear as crystal, and when the demigod damsels bathe in it, their bodies lend fragrance to the water and the breeze, thus enriching the atmosphere. In a valley of Tirukta mountain, there was a garden called Ritumat. This garden belonged to the great devotee Varuna and was a sporting place for the damsels of the demigods. Flowers and fruits grew there in all seasons. Among them were mandaras, parijatas, patalas, ashokas, kampakas, kutas, priyalas, panasas, bangos, amratakas, kramukas, coconut trees, date trees, and pomegranates. There were madhukas, palm trees, tamalas, asanas, arjunas, arishtas, undumbaras, plakshas, banyan trees, kimsukas, and sandalwood trees. There were also pikmundaras, kovidaras, saralas, suradarus, grapes, sugar canes, bananas, jambu, badris, akshas, abayas, and amalakis. Are these all fruit trees? And that you're very aware of? We see these everywhere, don't we? This is in the heavenly planets, guys. So in that garden, there was a very large lake filled with shining golden lotus flowers, and the flowers known as Kumunda, Kalara, Upala, and Satapatra, which added excellent beauty to the mountains. There were also Bilva, Kapita, Jambira, and Balaktaka trees. Intoxicated bumblebees drank honey and hummed with the chirping of the birds, whose songs were very melodious. The lake was crowded with swans, karandavas, chakravakas, cranes, and flocks of water chickens, dadyukas, coyotes, and other murmuring birds. Because of the agitating movements of the fish and tortoises, the water was decorated with pollen that had fallen from the lotus flowers. The lake was surrounded by kadamba flowers, vatsa flowers, nalas, nipas, vanjulakas, kundas, kurubakas, ashokas, sirishas, kutajas, ingudas, kumjakas, svarna, yutis, nagas, punagas, jatis, malikas, satapatras, jalikas, and madhavilatas. The banks were also abundantly adorned with varieties of trees that yielded flowers and fruits in all seasons. Thus, the entire mountain stood gloriously decorated. We'll come back to that in a minute, okay? Who would like to pick up at text 20?
I can read.
Please, thank you.
Text 20, all right. The leader of the elephants who lived in the forest of the mountain Trikuta once wandered toward the lake with his female elephants. He broke many plants, creepers, thickets, and trees, not caring for their piercing thorns. Simply by catching scent of that elephant, all the other elephants, the tigers, and the other ferocious animals, such as lions, rhinoceroses, great serpents, and black and white sharabas, fled in fear. The chamari deer also fled. By the mercy of this elephant, animals like the foxes, wolves, buffaloes, bears, boars, gopuchas, porcupines, monkeys, rabbits, the other deer, and many other small animals loitered elsewhere in the forest. They were not afraid of him. Surrounded by the herd's other elephants, including females, and followed by the young ones, Gajapati, the leader of the elephants, made Trikuta mountain tremble all around because of the weight of his body. He was perspiring, liquor dripped from his mouth, and his vision was overwhelmed by intoxication. He was being served by bumblebees who drank honey, and from a distance he could smell the dust of the lotus flowers, which was carried from the lake by the breeze. Thus, surrounded by his associates who were afflicted by thirst, he soon arrived at the bank of the lake. The king of the elephants entered the lake, bathed thoroughly, and was relieved of his fatigue. Then, with the aid of his trunk, he drank the cold, clear nectarian water, which was mixed with the dust of lotus flowers and water lilies, until he was fully satisfied. Like a human being who lacks spiritual knowledge and is too attached to the members of his family, the elephant, being illusioned by the external energy of Krishna, had his wives and children bathe and drink the water. Indeed, he raised water from the lake with his trunk and sprayed it over them. He did not mind the hard labor involved in this endeavor. By the arrangement of providence, O king, a strong crocodile was angry at the elephant and attacked the elephant's leg in the water. The elephant was certainly strong, and he tried his best to get free from this danger sent by providence. Thereafter, after seeing Gajendra in that grave condition, his wives felt very, very sorry and began to cry. The other elephants wanted to help Gajendra, but because of the crocodile's great strength, they could not rescue him by grasping him from behind. O king, the elephant and the crocodile fought in this way, pulling one another in and out of the water, for 1,000 years. Upon seeing the fight, the demigods were very surprised. Thereafter, because of being pulled into the water and fighting for many long years, the elephant became diminished in his mental, physical, and sensual strength. The crocodile, on the contrary, being an animal of the water, increased in enthusiasm, physical strength, and sensual power. Since these both chapters are only 33 verses, I'll go ahead and finish this chapter out instead of stopping here.
Please.
When the king of the elephants saw that he was under the clutches of the crocodile by the will of providence, and, being embodied and circumstantially helpless, could not save himself from danger, he was extremely afraid of being killed. He consequently thought for a long time and finally reached the following decision. The other elephants, who are my friends and relatives, could not rescue me from this danger. What then to speak of my wives? They cannot do anything. It is by the will of providence that I have been attacked by this crocodile, and therefore I shall seek shelter of the Supreme Personality of Godhead, who is always the shelter of everyone, even of great personalities. The Supreme Personality of Godhead is certainly not known to everyone, but he is very powerful and influential. Therefore, although the serpent of eternal time, which is fearful in force, endlessly chases everyone, ready to swallow him, if one who fears the serpent seeks shelter of the Lord gives him protection, for even death runs away in fear of the Lord. I therefore surrender unto him, the great and powerful supreme authority, who is the actual shelter of everyone.
Beautiful. Thank you so much. That was really good. So we've got this next chapter we're going to go ahead and read. This chapter is entitled Gajendra's Prayers of Surrender. So please follow along on that. And who would like to begin reading in text 1?
Hare Krishna Prabhuji.
Jai Bhakti Vilas Haribo.
Sri Sukadev Goswami continued. Thereafter, the king of the elephants, Gajendra, fixed his mind in his heart with perfect intelligence and chanted a mantra which he had learned in his previous birth as Indrayumna and which he remembered by the grace of Krishna. The king of the elephants, Gajendra, said, I offer my respectful obeisances unto the Supreme Person, Vasudeva. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Because of him, his material body acts due to the presence of spirit. And he is therefore the root cause of everyone. He is worshipable for such exalted persons as Brahma and Shiva, and he has entered the heart of every living being. Let me meditate upon him. The Supreme Godhead is the supreme platform on which everything rests, the ingredients by which everything has been produced, and the person who has created and is only cause of this cosmic manifestation. Nonetheless, he is different from the cause and the result. I surrender unto him, the Supreme Personality of Godhead, who is self-sufficient in everything. The Supreme Personality of Godhead, by expanding his own energy, keeps this cosmic manifestation visible and again sometimes renders it invisible. He is both the supreme cause and the supreme result, the observer and the witness in all circumstances. Thus, he is transcendental to everything. May that Supreme Personality of Godhead give me protection. In due course of time, when all the causative and effective manifestations of the universe, including the planets and their directors and maintainers and annihilators, there is a situation of dense darkness. Above this darkness, however, is the Supreme Personality of Godhead. I take shelter of his lotus feet. An artist on stage being covered by attractive dresses and dancing with different movements is not understood by his audience. Similarly, the activities and features of the supreme artist cannot be understood even by the demigods or great sages, and certainly not by those who are unintelligent like animals. Neither the demigods and sages nor the unintelligent can understand the features of the Lord, nor can they express in words his actual position. May that Supreme Personality of Godhead give me protection. Renunciants and great sages who see all living beings equally, who are friendly to everyone, and who flawlessly practice in the forest the vows of Brahmacharya, Vanaprastha, and Sannyasa, desire to see the all auspicious lotus feet of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. May that same Supreme Personality of Godhead be my destination. The Supreme Personality of Godhead has no material birth, activities, name, form, qualities, or faults. To fulfill the purpose for which this material world is created and destroyed, he comes in the form of a human being like Lord Rama or Lord Krishna by his original internal potency. He has immense potency and in various forms, all free from material contaminations. He acts wonderfully. He is therefore the Supreme Brahman. I offer my respects to him. I offer my respectful obeisances unto the Supreme Personality of Godhead, the self-effulgent Super Soul, who is the witness in everyone's heart, who enlightens the individual soul, and who cannot be reached by exercises of the mind, words, or consciousness. Hare Krishna, Prabhuji.
Very nice. Thank you so much. Anybody else want to pick up there? That would be text 11.
Can I read, Prabhuji? Hare Krishna.
Yes, please.
The Supreme Personality of Godhead is realized by pure devotees who act in the transcendental existence of Bhakti Yoga. He is the bestower of uncontaminated happiness and is the master of the transcendental world. Therefore, I offer my respects unto him. I offer my respectful obeisances to Lord Vasudeva, who is all pervading, to the Lord's fierce form as Lord Nrsimhadev, to the Lord's form as an animal, Lord Varahadev, to Lord Dattatreya, who preached impersonalism, to Lord Buddha, and to all the other incarnations. I offer my respectful obeisances unto the Lord, who has no material qualities, but who accepts the three qualities, goodness, passion, and ignorance, within this material world. I also offer my respectful obeisances unto the impersonal Brahman effulgence. I beg to offer my respectful obeisances unto you, who are the Supreme Soul, the superintendent of the everything, and the witness of all that occurs. You are the Supreme Person, the origin of material nature, and of the total material energy. You are also the owner of material body. Therefore, you are the supreme complete. I offer my respectful obeisances unto you. My Lord, you are the observer of all the objectives of the senses. Without your mercy, there is no possibility of solving the problem of doubts. The material world is just like a shadow resembling you. Indeed, one accepts this material world as a real because it gives a glimpse of your existence. My Lord, you are the cause of all causes, but yourself have no cause. Therefore, you are the wonderful cause of everything. I offer my respectful obeisances unto you, who are the shelter of the Vedic knowledge contained in the Shastras like Pancharatras and Vedanta Sutra, which are your representations, and who are the source of the Parampara system, because it is you who can give a liberation. You are the only shelter for all transcendentalists. Let me offer my respectful obeisances unto you.
Hare Krishna, Prabhuji.
Please read.
My Lord, as the fire and irony wood is covered, you and your unlimited knowledge are covered by the material modes of nature. Your mind, however, is not attentive to the activities of the modes of nature. Those who are advanced in spiritual knowledge are not subject to this regulative principles directed in the Vedic literatures. Because such advanced souls are transcendental, you personally appear in their pure minds. Therefore, I offer my respectful obeisances unto you. Since an animal such as I surrendered unto you, who are supremely liberated, certainly you will release me from this dangerous position. Indeed, being extremely merciful, your intensity trying to insensely tried to deliver me. By your partial feature as Paramatma, you are situated in the hearts of all embodied human beings. You are celebrated as a direct transcendental knowledge, and you are unlimited. I offer my respectful obeisances unto you and the Supreme Personality of Godhead. My Lord, those who are completely freed from material contamination always meditate upon you within the cores of their hearts. You are extremely difficult to attain for those like me who are too attached to mental concoction, home, relative, friends, money, servants, and assistants. You are the Supreme Personality of Godhead, uncontaminated by the modes of nature. You are the reservoir of all enlightenment, the Supreme Controller. I therefore offer my respectful obeisances unto you. After worshiping the Supreme Personality of Godhead, those who are interested in the four principles of religion and economic development, sense gratification, and liberation obtain from him what they desire. What then is to be said of other benedictions? Indeed, sometimes the Lord gives a spiritual body to such ambitious worshippers. May that Supreme Personality of Godhead, who is unlimitedly merciful, bestow upon me their benediction of liberation from this present danger and from the materialistic way of life. Unalloyed devotees who have no desire other than to serve the Lord worship him in full surrender and always hear and chant about his activities, which are most wonderful and auspicious. Thus, they always merge in an ocean of transcendental bliss. Such devotees never ask the Lord for any benediction. I, however, am in danger. Thus, I pray to the Supreme Personality of Godhead, who is eternally existing, who is invisible, who is the Lord of all great personalities, such as Brahma, and who is available only by transcendental Bhakti Yoga. Being extremely subtle, he is beyond the reach of my senses and transcendental to all external realization. He is unlimited. He is the original cause, and he's completely full of everything. I offer my obeisances unto him.
Thank you, Prabhuji. Hare Krishna.
Thank you. That was excellent. Very nice. Okay. We've got a few more here to go. And really, there's only about 23 verses in the third chapter. If you guys want to go ahead and make a show out of it tonight, we could try. Let's see how we end up.
Can I read?
Yes, please. Thank you.
Text, what text are we on? 20?
I think it's 22.
22.
22?
Yeah.
Yes, 22 to 20.
22, 24. Oh, now here, O son of Pratha, Arjun, how by practicing yoga in full consciousness of me, with mind
This is
attached to
Srimad
me.
Bhagavatam.
What is it?
Which chapter? We were on the third chapter?
Yes, we are in third chapter 22.
Chapter 3, text 24.
8th canto, Prabhuji. Prabhuji, 8th canto.
Did I miss one?
Yeah, 8th canto of Srimad Bhagavatam.
Yeah, 8, chapter 3, text 23, 22, 24. Right?
That's correct.
Oh, okay.
The Supreme Personality of Godhead creates his minor parts and parcels. The Jiva Tattva, beginning with Lord Brahma, the demigods and the expansions of Vedic knowledge, Sama, Riva, Yajur, and Atharva, and including all other living entities, moving and non-moving, with their different names and characteristics, as the sparks of a fire or the shining rays of the sun emanate from their source and merge into it again and again. The mind, the intelligence, the senses, the gross and subtle material bodies, and the continuous transformations of the different modes of nature all emanate from the Lord and again merge into him. He is neither demigod nor demon, neither human nor bird or beast. He is not woman, man, or neuter, nor is he an animal. He is not a material quality, a fruitive activity, a manifestation or non-manifestation. He is the last word in the discrimination of not this, not this, not this, not this, and he is unlimited. All glories to the Supreme Personality of Godhead. I do not wish to live anymore after I am released from the attack of the crocodile. What is the use of an elephant's body covered externally and internally by ignorance? I simply desire eternal liberation from the covering of ignorance. That covering is not destroyed by the influence of time. Now fully desiring release from material life, I offer my respectful obeisances unto that Supreme Person who is the creator of the universe, who is himself the form of the universe, and who is nonetheless transcendental to this cosmic manifestation. He is the supreme knower of everything in this world, the super soul of the universe. He is the unborn, supremely situated Lord. I offer my respectful obeisances unto him. I offer my respectful obeisances unto the Supreme, the Super Soul, the Master of all mystic yoga, who is seen in the core of the heart by perfect mystics when they are completely purified and freed from the reactions of fruitive activities by practicing Bhakti Yoga. My Lord, you are the controller of formidable strength in three kinds of energy. You appear as the reservoir of all sense pleasure and protector of the surrendered souls. You possess unlimited energy, but you are unapproachable by those who are unable to control their senses. I offer my respectful obeisances unto you again and again. I offer my respectful obeisances unto the Supreme Personality of Godhead, by whose illusory energy the Jiva, who is part and parcel of God, forgets his real identity because of the bodily concept of life. I take shelter of the Supreme Personality of Godhead, whose glories are difficult to understand. Sri Sukadeva Goswami continued, when the king of the elephants was describing the supreme authority without mentioning any particular person. He did not invoke the demigods headed by Lord Brahma, Lord Shiva, Indra, and Chandra. Thus, none of them approached him. However, because Lord Hari is the super soul, Purushottama, the personality of Godhead, he appeared before Gajendra. After understanding the awkward condition of Gajendra, who had offered his prayers, the Supreme Personality of Godhead, Hari, who lives everywhere, appeared with the demigods who were offering prayers to him, carrying his disc and other weapons. He appeared there on the back of his carrier Garuda with great speed according to his desire. Thus he appeared before Gajendra. Gajendra had been forcefully captured by the crocodile in the water and was feeling acute pain. But when he saw that Narayana wielding his disc was coming in the sky on the back of Garuda, he immediately took a lotus flower in his trunk and with great difficulty due to his painful conditions, he uttered the following words: O my Lord Narayana, Master of the universe, O Supreme Personality of Godhead, I offer my respectful obeisances unto you. Thereafter, seeing Gajendra in such an aggrieved position, the unborn Supreme Personality of Godhead, Hari, immediately got down from the back of Garuda by his causeless mercy and pulled the king of the elephants along with the crocodile out of the water. Then, in the presence of all the demigods who were looking on, the Lord severed the crocodile's mouth from its body with his disc. In this way, he saved Gajendra, the king of the elephants. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna. Hari Bol. Well, now I've got a question for everybody. Do you guys want to stop here and discuss these two chapters, or would you like to read the next 23 verses, which ends the entire Gajendra story? It'll leave us not much time to discuss it, but it's up to you guys. I think it's, whatever you decide. Let me see a show of hands here, everybody. Hold on, I can't see everybody's hands.
I think we should discuss it and put everybody in what do you call it, suspense for the way that Gajendra was. It describes how Gajendra was a devotee in his previous life.
Yeah. So we don't want to really talk about all that right now because otherwise that'll complete the story. However, a lot of people do already know the story, and if you know the story, you know that this was from a curse actually that took place. So he was injured human in his previous life. So yeah, we can save that. We can discuss this if you'd like. All right, we're going to take your advice and do that. So let me ask you: are there any questions, any comments, any elucidations you want to make on this chapter, these two chapters?
At the start of the reading, you had to read all those different flowers and plants. Now, is this taking place in one of the higher planetary?
Yes.
Higher planets?
Yeah, describe where it was taken.
Yes, yeah.
Yep. In the beginning, it described that it was on a lake that was created by Varuna. You might remember. And so this is a place where the demigods sport. Remember we were talking about the Kanaras? They're the monkeys, right? They were there. The Apsaras are there. The Gandharvas are there. Everybody's there. The caves were filled up with all the ascetics. As a matter of fact, they're chanting so loudly the glories of the Lord there that the lions would roar out of envy, thinking there may be a bigger lion, because the sound was tumultuous of all the chanting and praying. So yes, this is in the heavenly planets at the base of the big mountain that they described. Did you remember that? And on the shore of the Milk Ocean.
Yes, I'm trying to envisage it. Is this an actual planet, or is this the mountain? Does this mountain just come up through the universe or something? How does it work?
Well, I mean,
my,
that's a
how
pretty
can I
in-depth
think of
question
it?
you got there. That's a pretty in-depth question you got there.
I'm trying to envisage it so I can understand
All
where
right.
this happened.
So I think I shared with you, I think I did share with you the structure of the universe, right? Didn't you see that? I think I shared when
Yeah,
you
you
were
couldn't
trip
send
together.
it. Yeah, you couldn't send it to me, could you?
Well, I didn't know if I could or not, but I don't think I must have sent it to you because it could have answered some of your questions though, because it describes all of the seven islands. It describes, the mountain, Mount Meru. It describes the tops of the mountains being gold, silver, and iron in this particular location. So, some of this is very difficult for us to get our minds around because we can't see, farther than our hand in many cases. So to look into the sky and wonder what's out there, there's no real way for us to know with our little tiny telescopes and things like that. Yes, we see a light in the distance, but we don't know what's on the light. And even in the planets, we may see a globe that's shiny or whatever it might be, but we don't know what's on those planets. And it could be other dimensional, or it could be a subtle body that you can't see. So we know that in the higher planetary systems, their minds, they don't have gross bodies necessarily like we do. They're gross bodies, but they're subtle bodies. In other words, mind intelligence like that. So yes, and there's some bodies that are made of fire. There's some oceans of milk. There are oceans of oil. If you look in the Vedas, it's fantastic. I mean, they describe all these different locations in great detail, and you can do a lot of research on that if you would like. Does anybody have anything they want to add to Rangavati's question? Nobody. So we'll do a little research on that and get you the exact answer to your question. But that, I would say, that's a very detailed question you're asking someone. So I think maybe a little additional research could be done on that if you'd like. We need a full research team here doing like that. But no, it's in a heavenly planet. It's in a heavenly location because Apsaras and Chinaras and Gandharvas and all these living entities, they don't live down here with us. They live in a higher planetary system. Does that answer your question?
Definitely it's helping. Yes, as I said, I'm
Okay.
trying to visit it.
I will send you the whole schematic of the universe, and you can see from the bottom Patala Loka all the way up to Brahma Loka, Siddha Loka. You can see that, all those different
Over the
planetary systems.
mountain.
Yes, all that's located in there, and in different places there are different features like Mount Meru. And this is not Mount Meru though. Yeah, this one's not
So-
Mount Meru.
So just to recall, this is happening in a lake which is owned by Varuna in a garden called Ritumat, which is on a mountain called Trikuta.
Right.
Okay.
Trikuta is the one with the peaks of gold, silver, and iron. Yeah, it's not Mount Meru. You were asking about Mount Meru. This is not Mount Meru. There are some fantastic places even on the earth. We have mountains that are miles high. As a matter of fact, there are mountains underneath the ocean that are higher than even Mount Everest that we don't see. So there are places here beyond our vision. All right, any other questions?
I wanted to share something, couple
Please.
of things.
Please.
So in Bhagavad Gita, Krishna explains in the second chapter, Neha vikramanashvasti pratyavayonam vidyate swalpam apya sadharmasya trayate mahato bhayat, that even a little endeavor on this path can save one from the greatest danger. So here we're reading a wonderful incident of how the elephant Gajendra, just by remembering the Supreme Lord, was able to be rescued. I think he said, "Rescue me," right?
He did, yes.
Somebody wrote a song about that recently too, right?
Ah, I wonder who that was.
Um, so there are many examples like this of how doing anything in devotional service will help us later on. Of course, we also read about Ajamil, who got the benefit. He was rescued in the same lifetime. There was Bharat Maharaj, which reminded me of this story because Bharat Maharaj was able to remember his past life and still remember Krishna and achieve perfection that way. And this is Gajendra, who was Indradumna in his last life and was cursed by Agastya Muni, which we'll read about later. So that was one thing. And then the other thing I wanted to read was, of course, Prabhupada's purports are wonderful, but sometimes there's some purports that I really can relate to and like. In talking about how to remember Krishna, Srila Prabhupada explains in the purport of the first verse in the third chapter, explaining about how Gajendra remembered the Supreme Personality of Godhead. And in the purport, if you don't mind, I'll read the whole purport. It's not that long.
Go ahead.
Such remembrance is described in Bhagavad Gita, 6th chapter, 43rd and 44th verses. Tatra tang buddhi sangyogam labate purva dehikam yatate cha tato bhuyaha sangsiddhav hari kuru nandana purva bhyasena tenaiva viyate hai avasho api saha. In these verses, it is assured that even if a person engaged in devotional service falls down, he is not degraded, but is placed in a position in which he will, in due course of time, remember the Supreme Personality of Godhead. As explained later, Gajendra was formerly King Indradumna, and somehow or other in his next life he became king of the elephants. Now Gajendra was in danger, and although he was in a body other than that of a human being, he remembered the stotra he had chanted in his previous life. Yatate cha tato bhuya sangsiddhau kurunandana. To enable one to achieve perfection, Krishna gives one the chance to remember him again. This is proved here, for although the king of the elephants, Gajendra, was put in danger, this was a chance for him to remember his previous devotional activities so that he could immediately be rescued by the Supreme Personality of Godhead. And here in the last paragraph, Srila Prabhupada gives some advice on how we should all remember a mantra. It is imperative, therefore, that all devotees in Krishna consciousness practice chanting some mantra. Certainly, one should chant the Hare Krishna mantra, which is the Maha mantra or great mantra, and also one should practice chanting Chintamani Prakara Sadmashu or the Nrsinga Stotra. Ito Nrsinga Parato Nrsingo Yato Yato Yami Tato Nrsinga. Every devotee should practice in order to chant some mantra perfectly, so that even though he may be imperfect in spiritual consciousness in this life, in his next life he will not forget Krishna consciousness, even if he becomes an animal. Of course, a devotee should try to perfect his Krishna consciousness in this life, for simply by understanding Krishna and his instructions, after giving up this body, one can return home back to Godhead. Even if there is some fall down, practice of Krishna consciousness never goes in vain. For example, Ajamil in his boyhood practiced chanting the name of Narayan under the direction of his father. But later in his youth, he fell down and became a drunkard, woman hunter, rogue, and thief. Nonetheless, because of chanting the name of Narayan for the purpose of calling his son, whom he had named Narayan, he became advanced, even though he was involved in sinful activities. Therefore, we should not forget the chanting of the Hare Krishna mantra under any circumstances. It will help us in the greatest danger, as we find in the life of Gajendra. So I just wanted to share that.
Very good. Yeah, that's very nice. Very good. Glad you had that. Glad you found that. That's very good. Prabhupada covered it all. Wonderful. Yeah, well, this situation, what happened? We found that what Pariksit was in the body of a deer, right? Right? People become attached to something, they take another body, and then they're given an opportunity to remember.
Bharat Maharaj.
I'm in Bharat Maharaj. I'm sorry about that. So yeah, Bharat Maharaj became a deer in his next life. So these stories go on, and if we look through the Vedas, we'll see unlimited stories that we can use in our own lives for our own improvement and correction. And we won't make those mistakes. A lot of times these stories are there for us to not make these mistakes. But it is nice to know, as you just read, that even if we do make a mistake, maybe fall down, there's really no loss or diminution. And also, little advancement on this path can protect one from even the greatest type of danger, which is falling back into the material pool or back into animal life and animal species. Now, Gajendra was enjoying his wives, and he was enjoying liquor, and he's enjoying sense pleasure in the material world. He was the actual king of all the elephants, even though he had been cursed to take this dumb body, as it was called, by Augusta Muni, because he didn't get up. He didn't get up when he was actually in a vow of silence. And so when Augusta Muni came with the brahmacharis and so forth, he didn't acknowledge him. So he said he was not a very advanced person, and he cursed him. But this curse led him to meet in person and be saved in person by the Supreme Personality of Godhead, Hari, who is the super soul. And ultimately, of course, he was awarded a body just like God with 4 hands. And he apparently went to Vaikuntha. So the rest of the story will be there, but it's part of the whole thing. So we've already kind of let the cat out of the bag a little bit for those who haven't heard it. We'll go back over it. But yes, good points, excellent points. But Gajendra, entered the water to enjoy, and he disturbed the crocodiles there. And the king of the crocodiles basically came and trapped him. And because he was in the water, he gained strength while Gajendra lost strength. So, but the one thing that stood out in my mind about this is that Gajendra accepted this as the will of providence. In other words, he said, oh, well, I've struggled. My friends couldn't get me out. My wives couldn't get me out. No one can save me. They're all fallible soldiers. No one can save me. So where can he turn? So he turned to Krishna because he had a previous life as the king, literally, of the world, and actually was a renunciate. He actually left his kingdom like all the great kings did and went to the mountains to meditate in that situation. But he made a mistake. He didn't offer respects. Now, we know there's other stories like that where, who was that? Was it Daksha? Came before Shiva and did not, or when Shiva came in or whatever, he didn't acknowledge Shiva. So is that the story? Ram Vigraha, Vamsi, you're there. So can you tell me, is that the right story? Is it Daksha?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Daksha disrespected Lord Shiva and
Right.
And yes.
Same way. Basically did not show respect. So we see that. Also, there's another incident in Bhagavatam where Romaharsana is sitting on the Vyasasan, and Lord Balaram comes, and he didn't show proper respect. So Lord Balaram took a piece of grass and killed him with a piece of grass and replaced him with his own son on the Vyasasan. So if we go through the Bhagavatam, you'll see all these wonderful stories that are there. But what stands out to me is that he accepted this as the will of God, and he then sought shelter. This is our position. Most people, they get angry at God if he doesn't give them exactly what they've ordered. They think God is a valet service. And so they give me bread, give me money, give me wife, give me car, give me this, give me that. I mean, it's said in the Vedas that God's favorite pastime is providing the desires of all the jivatmas and all of his energetics, the souls that are out here. That's his favorite pastime. He loves doing it. But we can't look at God as an order taker. The real devotees don't do that. Non-devotees do that. They may have some devotion, but they're actually doing a business deal. This is what Prahlad Maharaj said in the last chapter, you might remember. So he said, anyone who is simply asking for something from you is doing a business arrangement. Therefore, he asked for no material desires. We might remember from that chapter. So at least here, Gajendra acknowledged that this is the will of providence, and he accepted it and sought shelter, and he chanted Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. And he learned all these things in his previous life as a great king who renounced his kingdom in an appropriate way at the end of his life. So he starts these wonderful prayers. And I just wanted to kind of, if you don't mind, I'm just going to, and if anybody has anything they want to say, just chime right on in, just stop or just interject. But these prayers that he gave us are magnificent prayers. And they pretty much have all of the philosophy that you could want right there in all these prayers. So to just kind of recap his prayers, the first thing he's saying is that all of this is an expansion of God's energy. And to that person, to that Supreme Personality of Godhead, I offer my respectful obeisances. He also says that this Supreme Personality of Godhead is the observer and the witness of everything. And to that person, he gives his obeisances. He goes on to say, he's above the manifest and unmanifest world. So this personality, Supreme Personality of Godhead, is there after all these things are finished. He still exists. And to him, we offer our respectful obeisances. He wears different dresses like an actor or an artist. And sometimes he might not be recognizable by non-devotees. But this is the Supreme Personality of Godhead. And he manifests really by his own sweet will in any way he sees fit. No one can understand it. The demigods cannot understand it. No one can understand it. God acts by his own sweet will. But in every case when God comes as an incarnation, it's for the improvement of the world, for the correction of the world, for the protection of his devotees, for the annihilation of the demons. And we've read that in Bhagavad Gita many times, right? Yada yada dharmasha. So he also he said he prayed to have the same destination as the brahmacharis, the sannyasis, and the vanaprastha, right? Who are in meditation to achieve the Lord's lotus feet. So he says he asked for the same destination. I have a song that says, what is it? It says something about the twice born, soon to see you again, who chant the Gayatri 3 times a day. They're soon to see you again. So in the same way, we want that destination of those who are soon to see you again. And so he's asking for that. He goes on to say that, he's incarnated in all these different forms, such as Rama and Krishna. And he's the super soul and the witness of everything. He's realized by pure devotees through a process known as Bhakti Yoga. Have you ever heard of that one? Bhakti Yoga. So yes, he's known through pure service and Bhakti Yoga. And he provides us with uncontaminated happiness. So our happiness in the material world is contaminated because, first of all, if you're having some happiness, the first thing you have is anxiety that the happiness won't last or that you're going to lose the happiness at any time. And so happiness has still got a cloud or a shadow over it in the material world. And everyone works so hard to try to preserve their happiness. You might see people try to make their home, air conditioned or, heated or whatever it is. We see those things, nice, comfortable couches, nice decorations pleasing to the eye, et cetera, and so on and so on. So that happiness that we have in the material world, if we're attached to it, we're guaranteed to be disappointed because that is endlessly mutable. There's no end to its manifest and unmanifest state. It's like up and down, in and out, good, bad. That's the duplicity or duality of the material world. So he says that this world, it's a shadow. It resembles the world in the spiritual sky, and it actually gives a glimpse of the spiritual sky, a glimpse of God, Hari, but it's a shadow world. So we're living in the shadows right now, and we're separated from God. Because of our situation, we're not qualified to see God. We become qualified through this process of Bhakti Yoga. And he delineates that here. He says that the Lord is the cause of everything. He's the originator of the Parampara system, and he's the only shelter. So he offers his respectful obeisances to that Supreme Personality of Godhead. One thing that stood out in my mind is in his prayer, he said that the Lord is incessantly trying to deliver him. He said, "You have incessantly tried to deliver me." So he felt confident that the Lord would release him from this dangerous situation. But he wanted freedom from more than that, didn't he? He didn't even desire to take an elephant body again. He was finished with the whole thing at that point. And he said that this material world of friends, family, money, wealth, possessions, power, whatever it might be, are all mental concoctions that we're destined to lose. And if that's the case, then he says, if people worship you for material gain and they receive it after worshiping you, what to speak of devotees who worship you with no material desires? What type of benefits could they expect? Right? So he was very clear about that. So he's asking him to not only deliver him from the dangerous position that he's in, but from materialistic life altogether. And which he says is only available through Bhakti Yoga. So he's the last word in not this, not this, not this, not this. Because you can go through everything and find out what is, where is God by going through that process. That process is also known as Sankhya philosophy, where you can analyze the material world to find God in everything, or just say that this is not it, this is not it. So he simply desires liberation from the knower of everything, the master of mystic yoga. And he says that the Lord is unapproachable by those who cannot or unable to control their senses. So yoga, the first steps in yoga is yama niyama. In other words, give up everything unfavorable, accept everything favorable in the service of the Lord. So that way we control our senses. Prabhupada was saying, I was reading earlier today, Prabhupada said that we have unlimited desires, and that's normal. But our desires right now are focused on temporary things which can only cause frustration and loss and misery and suffering. So Prabhupada said, just simply transfer those unlimited desires in the service of the Lord, and your life is perfected. So one thing that we know that he did not, because he did not approach the demigods for his salvation or for anything, who showed up? Lord Hari showed up. Lord Hari showed up on the back of Garuda, the winged carrier, as the super soul. But the super soul's everywhere. It says the super soul lives everywhere all the time and is witnessing every single activity and recording it. That activity is there. And the Bhagavad Gita says he's the eyes of the sun and the moon, and you know God sees everything. He's in every atom. He's in every bit of his creation as super soul, Lord Hari. So because he didn't invoke the demigods, super soul appeared on his carrier. He asked for the Supreme Personality of Godhead. And then what did Gajendra do? The first thing he did, after even saying all these prayers, when the Lord shows up, he's in terrible pain. He's suffering. He has very little strength left. The first thing he does is reach for a flower, a lotus flower, and offer it to the Lord. And by offering that flower to the Lord got down off from Garuda and pulled the elephant, king of the elephants, Gajendra, and the crocodile both out of the water, and then took his Sudarshan and severed the jaws, the mouth, from that crocodile to save his devotee. So this is our situation. There's a statement that I just was reading it earlier today. I wish I'd written it down, but I'll paraphrase. Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu says that anyone who comes to me and surrenders and asks for my protection, it is my vow that I will protect them. We hear that same concept repeated by Lord Ramchandra, who says, simply lay down your weapons and offer respect, surrender to me, and then I will protect you. There's nothing left for you to worry about. Lord Krishna says that abandon all varieties, a philosophy, mental concoction, religion, whatever it might be, surrender to me, I will protect you. So God is saying, I will protect you. All we have to do is sincerely come before the Lord and ask for his protection. In this case, Gajendra did that because he found that his strength didn't work. He found that all of his friends couldn't rescue him. His wives couldn't rescue him. Prabhupada called this fallible soldiers. Fallible soldiers. So there's no one here that can actually protect us. So we have to turn to the Lord for everything. Krishna says, whether you have full of material desires, you have no material desires, come to me. Everything is Krishna. Everything belongs to Krishna. In this chapter, Gajendra says, the body is owned by the Lord. Even our bodies are owned by the Lord. So if that's the case, what are we doing? Either we're misers, we're thieves, we're stealing from the Lord, or we're giving back to the Lord in full surrender what he's given to us. Just like Gajendra gave him the flower at the very end and realized his helpless condition in the material world. He did not want to come back to this material world. So that should be our situation as well. And that completes my notes on these two first chapters. Does anybody else have anything else they want to add to that?
Hare Krishna Prabhuji, I just wanted to add a point where Gajendra was losing his power in the water, but the crocodile was getting more powerful because it is his normal place where he lives, so he's getting his food or whatever. But that can be compared to where we are all here, and we are not in our natural place, and that's why we are always suffering here. So it was just a comparison of Gajendra in the water being stuck with the crocodile. And then the other point that came to mind was this crocodile who is the one who is first liberated by the Lord. And I heard from a devotee that this crocodile was holding on to another devotee's feet, who is Gajendra. And having held onto the feet for that long, for 1,000 years, the Lord showed his mercy first to that devotee. So if we serve the devotee, the Lord shows more mercy. Thank you.
I love that. That's a great observation. I hadn't
Yeah.
heard that second one before.
Yeah.
But certainly we're losing our power. Prabhupada said we're like fish out of water. If you take a fish out of water, it may flop around. It looks like it's alive. It looks like it's active. It looks like something's going on. But the fact of the matter is it's not in its environment. So it's going to die in a few moments. So it can flip flop a little bit, but ultimately it loses its power in that situation. So that's our circumstance. We're souls encased in a material body, and the material body wears out, but the soul doesn't. So even if on our deathbed, you'll see there are unlimited desires. So the only way to tame ourselves, to really tame the mind, is to just dovetail all these desires in the service of the Lord. So one of my prayers is, after reading the other prayer that we read at the last class, where it says, I have served my master's lust, anger, and greed, and I've done it wholeheartedly. I was good at it, right? And but they were never satisfied with my service. They never became happy. They never became satisfied with my service. So if we serve the Lord, we can see that the Lord does become satisfied. He told Prahlad that he was very pleased with his prayers. And so in every case where the Lord comes and he hears these nice prayers like the ones that Gajendra just gave, he's very pleased with that. And as a result of that, he bestows all of his blessings on these individuals. So that's our situation. We're losing power in the material world, but if we dovetail our desires to Krishna consciousness, we'll gain our power and we'll achieve what? Even an animal said can achieve the same bodily, as God, the same body as the Lord. And now Gajendra obviously went back to Vaikuntha because he got 4 arms. So, right? Yeah. So, but nonetheless, he achieved the body of a Vishnu Duta, And so we can achieve that. So that's a very good point, though. And I love that about holding on to the feet of a devotee like that, which is what we have to do. There's one example that we should smear the dust of the feet of the Vaishnava all over our body. And this is the only way that we're ever going to get any mercy, from God. So let's do that. Let's do that. And in this case, I think that the crocodile was probably pretty smart, don't you?
Yeah. Yes.
All right. We're at 8:06, guys, and we're trying our best to keep this down to an hour. So is there any other questions or comments? That was very good, Vamsi. Thank you for adding to the nectar tonight. And also Ram Raghava, thank you so much for that wonderful reading that you gave us. And Rangavati, I wish you would do some research on that so that you could understand more clearly this whole structure of the universe. And I'll try to forward you that depiction. Okay.
I've just found a couple of illustrations which I've just put on our WhatsApp group.
Good.
And I think that's making things more clearly for me.
Good. Excellent.
Sing clearly now, my whatever the rest of the song is.
The rain has gone.
That's right, the rain has gone.
But the rain of mercy has started. Can we see your illustrious husband floating in the air one more time? Let's see him float.
I'm not sure if he's still floating.
See if he'll float. Let's see if he'll float.
Floating.
There he is. There's Bhavananda. He's floating
over Govardhan Hill.
Very good.
I think he's in his Vimana.
Yeah.
Yes, he is.
Yeah.
Over Govardhan Hill now. Look.
You better watch it. Lord Shiva's Tripurari, he'll take those arrows that Krishna gave him. You better watch out. All right, guys. Well, listen, I really appreciate your time tonight. What a wonderful reading. And the next, we'll finish the story of Gajendra, which is marvelous. And we'll relish that in the next installment.
Vijay, I have a question about the mukti that Gajendra got. You mentioned that he got like the Sarupya mukti in Vaikuntha, but devotees that don't even want that liberation, right? They always want to serve, and they if they want to go to the spiritual world, they want to be with Krishna in his two-handed form. So how can we understand that with this liberation that Gajendra got?
Well, there are different rasas with the Lord, and one of the rasas obviously is dashiras. There's two kinds of dashiras. Sambhava, I believe is what it's called, and the other one is Gaurava. And so in that service attitude, they see God in awe and reverence, and they're satisfied in serving Him. Just like it says that the devotees who are in that dashiras, generally, the Kshatriyas and the associates of Lord in Dwarka, they stand by the gate awaiting the instructions of the Lord with tears in their eyes. So, but the next level is Gaurava, which is where they think they have to protect God. So they take even a closer interest in the Lord and feel like they must protect Him. So, and then friendship above that, right? And then parental, and then Madhurya Ras. So there's different ways to see the Lord, and some people want that relationship of awe and reverence. In the Bible, it talks about that a lot, about the streets are paved with gold, and the Lord is there on the throne, and even Jesus Christ in His relationship says that He sits on the right-hand side of the throne of God, like that. So there are people who are interested in that type of particular service, and those go to the Vaikuntha planets, which are innumerable, and they attain the same bodily feature as the Lord. So obviously here, Indrajumna actually had that rasa. He had that relationship with the Lord, and so therefore he did ask for liberation. He did. So it's when you talk about these other relationships and pure devotion and all that stuff, they don't ask the Lord for anything. Like Prahlad Maharaj, we see he didn't even ask for anything. He asked for no material desires, and then he asked his father, sinful rascal, who was going to kill him, to be forgiven. And he also said, "I don't want to go back to the spiritual world alone." wants to take as many with him as he could. So in that situation, that's very nice. That's a different kind of attitude, isn't it? So we see, though, that these different relationships are all transcendental and they're equal in their nature. And so apparently Gajendra wanted that liberation. He was looking for that Sarupya Mukti of the Lord in his four-handed form. And we'll read about that in the next installment. Okay.
Thank you so much.
Yeah, thank you. What else we got? Anything else? You guys are amazing. Thank you again. Enjoyed it. I'll see you the next installment next Monday night. Be here or be square. Don't do it. Chant with me. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna,
Hare
Hare
Krishna,
Hare,
Hare
Hare
Hare,
Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama,
Ram,
Hare Hare.
Hare Hare.
See you next time, guys. Thank you.
Thank you, Prabhuji. Hare Krishna.
Hare Bol.
Haribol. Haribol.